Season 2, Episode 7.
Hello, I'm Per Axbom.
And I'm James Roy Lawson.
And this is UX Podcast. We're in Stockholm, Sweden, and you are listening to us from all over the world, including Namibia and Hong Kong.
This episode is a link show, but it's not an ordinary link show.
It's quite a very, very different link show. Because
very different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you'll be able to listen to the links. That's essentially what you're going to be doing here in this show.
Yeah. So in today's link show, we're featuring two articles, one of which is by James Roy Lawson, called Final Call, and the other article is by Per Axbom, and is called
Your Unique Typing Rhythm Can Reveal Your Identity. And what's so special about these articles is that they are also podcasts.
Yes, both Per and I, we are recording audio versions of our articles that we write on our websites. And this is your chance to listen to those podcasts as part of this podcast. And we'll do our usual link show thing by reflecting on these articles a bit as well.
So, James, let's start off with your article, Final Call, and give it a listen. And I have to say, just off the bat, for me, it was extremely painful just listening to this.
With an air of authority and accuracy, the departure board said that the gate to my flight will be shown at 19:27. Not 19:15, not soon, but 19:27. Relax, he said on the screen. We've got this covered, the screen reassuringly implied. He also said the flight was estimated to depart at 20:17, 12 minutes late. Confident accuracy once again. At 19:26, I decided to walk up to the screens showing the departure information. If I'd been promised new information with such accuracy as 19:27, then I wasn't going to miss this event. I checked my watch and waited for the final seconds to pass. 19:27. Nothing. I stood firm. I waited. Then, at 19:28, the screen updated. A7, go to gate. By this point, I'd already received a push notification to my phone and a text message saying that the flight was delayed until 2020, not 2017. Ah well, that's only 3 minutes later. I guess that Norwegian do a bit of rounding in their systems that Manchester Airport don't in theirs. Shortly after, an other apologetic notification appeared. The news this time was that flight was delayed until 2012. It took me a moment to register that this new time actually was better than the previous one. My flight had heaved its way 8 minutes back towards the scheduled departure time. This joyful news wasn't immediately obvious, as the wording of the notification followed the same "We're really sorry to say your flight is delayed" template as previous messages. This worked okay for the first notification, but with the updated, improved delayed time, it felt a little off. An improvement to this would be to have separate notification templates for initial delay, more delay, and less delay, plus some reasonably straightforward logic to help pass on the correct information, relatively adjusted for the context the traveller finds themselves in. I digress. I made my way to the gate not long after the information came up on the departure board, so I was there well ahead of most other passengers on my flight. There was a steady stream of people arriving after me, and the gate filled up, as they do ahead of flights. Then, across the speaker system for the terminal came the announcement that it was final call for flight D84470 to Stockholm. Final call for all passengers. Once upon a time, the final call announcement really was the final call. You really needed to be at the gate. If you were lucky, and probably because you had some checked-in baggage, Then you get the extra announcement shaming you by name to everyone. At Manchester Airport Terminal 2, these final call messages are automated. They appear to be automated based on the scheduled times. My flight was about 10 minutes late. 8 minutes late according to the second text message. We were all here at gate A7 waiting for the boarding to start. Yet the announcement just said final call. Moments after the automated announcement, the gate staff made a corrective announcement saying roughly, "Don't worry." Or more specifically, they told us explicitly to ignore the announcement. They explained that the announcement was automated and that boarding would start shortly. Relax. Easy for us to do. We were all by the gate. We could see that boarding hadn't started and we could hear the announcement by the gate staff. The thing is, the announcement by the gate staff was local to the gate. It could only be heard on the speakers in the immediate vicinity of gate A7 and a few nearby gates. Not long after the automated announcement, the gate staff's corrected announcement that is, people started appearing in the distance, further down the pier, running towards our gate. They arrived, one at a time, red-faced and panting, hardly able to hold a conversation, stressed and thinking they were about to miss their flight. They each came to a halt at the gate, only to be met by the gate staff, who say, "We haven't started boarding yet." Such a frustrating mix of authority, accuracy and nonsense. The impact of poor service design. The initial departure board information with its minute-level accuracy creates a perception of control and reliable information. The automated announcements, relentlessly bound to the original timetable, create a perception of incompetence and unreliable information. The corrective announcement then doubles down on building the perception that the automated announcements are useless, but also creates some level of reassurance that the gate staff, who are ultimately the people who need to be on top of things, are generally on top of things, but unable, it would seem, to prevent the automated announcements. The passengers who, after hearing the final call and sprinted down the pier in order to arrive in time, had a stressful and sweaty experience that has likely resulted in the erosion of trust in the airport and airline. This kind of experience reinforces an expectation that systems don't work and of services that don't live up to what they pretend to be. This kind of letdown is something we face daily. We are priming people to expect that digital services aren't very good. This is the absolute opposite of what we hope to achieve. In the end, we arrived in Stockholm 10 minutes ahead of schedule and not 8 minutes late. Relax, said the screen.
Okay, so that pain I expressed before we just played this little clip was based on my own experiences traveling these days, and everything is just so complicated. If you're trying to stay on top of things because you're sort of a tech geek and you have all the apps installed and you want to stay informed. But staying informed today means that you're getting information from lots of different places that aren't always synced, and that just creates a lot of frustration.
Yeah, it's that whole kind of high-level thinking of the experience, which is what I was getting at in the article. That's, the service design just breaks down when you look at the full journey. As an individual going through that flying experience, it's a mess.
It's a mess, and it's a mess in a very, very short time frame as well. Yeah,
and it's stressful. It destroys trust. It makes you sweaty as you're running towards gates. I mean, it's really not good. And of course, I try and think, what can we actually do? It's very well me describing and saying what that service design is missing, but where do you put the service down? Where is the intervention that would make this work?
Exactly, because you have to go up a few levels. I mean, somebody is working with the staff on how they're announcing stuff, and somebody is working on the tech that announces stuff automatically, and someone else entirely is pulling information into your app, which is third party, I assume. And so it's really hard to know, well, who owns the information and who should be responsible for fixing all this.
Yeah, and on top of that, there's a pilot in an airplane who knows full well what's going on.
who knows everything. So really, we should just give him a microphone.
Yeah, basically. No, and that's that. The end of that story there was, we arrived on time. We arrived slightly ahead of time, and the pilot knew that. The pilot knew that when he was trundling in late to Manchester to pick me up, they already knew that turning around and go back, he'll have a backwind and he'll come in 10 minutes early. The whole thing was just charades, just nonsense. It didn't need to happen in that sense, in this example.
Exactly. And what I was reflecting on as well was that we're talking about a few minutes back and forth. We don't need this information. I mean, I can wait for the bus and it'd be late for 5 minutes. That's fine. I don't need like 5 notifications telling me, oh, it's 3 minutes late. No, it's 7. No, we're back to 5. It's like, it's just useless. It's useless interaction. It didn't even have to be there. Everything could just be quiet and you would have been fine.
It's exactly. If it less would have been better in this situation. But going back again to like how you actually solve this, it's kind of, for me, that's actually the most frustrating thing, is that I don't see how it's possible to solve it.
Yeah, well, solving it means take away the computers. Don't make the computers talk to the travelers. Make the computers talk to the staff, and then the staff will be full aware of what the computers are saying, and they can adjust that as things happen. And they can decide, well, I'm not going to announce that it's 7 minutes late because that doesn't matter.
But you can't take it away, though, because you've got all these airlines that have got all their apps, all the information, there's all the stuff there, and they're sending out. I mean, there's so many layers you need to take away, Pag, that it's almost, even that, what you're saying of kind of taking away computers and taking away the information is as big a problem as actually fixing the integrations.
So, well, the fix has to be somewhere, because the fix has to be that I, as a human being, including the staff, doesn't have to deal with all the frustrations and the anger. That means putting on soundproof headphones and just not caring.
Self-preservation. Yeah, that's actually.
I mean, that based on what you just said, that has to be the solution, because if you can't fix it that way or the other way, then I have to protect myself and my well-being.
But then if they change gates on you, you're not going to know about it.
Nope.
So you'll miss your flight. So again, it's not a proper.
I have to carry a sign. I'm going to this flight, and somebody will have to come get me.
My name's Per Axboom. If you need me, I'm here. That kind of thing. But these, but no. I mean, some people commented to me that service design can solve this. It's service design using systems thinking, and we'll be able to kind of work out where the intervention's needed at what kind of like level. And yeah, absolutely, you work out that it's needed on a global airline level or something like that. But I still think we're going to have that problem of execution. When you actually try to do the intervention, are you going to be able to do it in a way which actually succeeds? And this is my frustration with so many of these things we have, is that we talk about the theoretical aspect of service design or systems thinking, and what we can do, how we can design something, how we can do an intervention in the right place to make a difference. But how often do we see it actually working?
That feels like a leading question, James.
I'm still looking.
No, we're making things more and more complex, because there are so many integrations, there are so many touch points. It's and somebody says we're going to solve it this time around, but not solving the root problem of we don't need all this information. We need to go back to understanding what is the information that needs to go out. We don't need to send out everything just because we can. We need to send out the information that helps people be prepared, feel better, and make good choices.
And as is at the moment, we're still trying to fix things in slices.
Yeah.
The airport tried to fix its experience. The airline tried to fix its experience. We've got slices that are all being dealt with, and in isolation, a designer might be happy, or might be happy with what they've produced, but in combination with all the other slices, it's not working.
And like you were saying, you're not even certain that the staff is aware that their information doesn't go out into the whole terminal and just stays at the gate.
I honestly don't know. I mean, they seem to be aware about the automation side of things, that they couldn't stop the announcements. But I'm not sure they knew how far they went in the airport. There's a lot to know about what's not happening. If that makes sense.
And the best thing would have been if nothing happened.
Yeah. Our second article today, or second podcast today, is your article, Per.
It's actually from 2020 is when I wrote about this, about something called keystroke dynamics. Your unique typing rhythm can reveal your identity. A rarely talked about field of research known as keystroke dynamics involves identifying individuals based on how they type on a keyboard. It's getting better and also easier for anyone to implement. As early as 1860, experienced telegraph operators realized they could actually recognize each individual by everyone's unique tapping rhythm. To the trained ear, the soft tip-tap of every operator could be as recognizable as the spoken voice of a family member. In World War II, military intelligence used a methodology known as fist of the sender to identify unique ways of keying in a message's dots and dashes in Morse code. It was used to distinguish friend from foe. The pace and style of the communication allowed expert operators to deduce who was in the other end. The more you type, the more of your unique qualities can be collected and identified. Even if people type on keyboards at approximately the same speed, everyone will have specific pauses, sequences, and hold times for certain letters that are true only for them. The more of these variables we have access to, the more certain we can be of a person's identity. Common misspellings, errors, preferred words, punctuation, capitalization, and use of emojis will, of course, all play into this data. The more that is known, the closer confidence levels come to being the equivalent of a biometric fingerprint. The behavioral biometric identifier retrieved through input by a keyboard, known as keystroke dynamics, of course only gets better over time, able to take into account that your typing varies over a day or days and can be affected by external factors. Your typing style can identify you in otherwise anonymized data. As you will likely be aware by now, this technique can of course be used to de-anonymize anyone wanting to appear anonymous online. So whatever security precautions you may have taken, keystroke logging may very well be enough to identify you. Want to stay under the radar? Random taping of fingers, wearing gloves, or consuming an alcoholic beverage may fool some software, but don't forget to also develop your vocabulary. Note that keylogging is illegal in most countries, akin to wiretapping, and hopefully not employed as much as you might fear. But the data is very easy to collect in a digital world, by any website, and often the creators of software aren't thinking ahead on potential misuse, or maybe aren't even aware that what they are doing is illegal. Facebook was saving everything you typed, even when you didn't hit publish, very early on. TikTok today saves keystrokes when you use their internal web browser. Who is doing what these days is not always obvious, and sometimes the logging itself is done under the guise of enhanced security, sometimes valid and sometimes not. But once again, consumer control is essentially non-existent. Awareness is all we can spread. In 1844, on May 24th, Samuel Morse sent an historic telegraph message from Washington, D.C. to Alfred Vail in Baltimore, Maryland. The message read, What hath God wrought?
One thing I think of straight away, Pow, is you talk much slower without me.
Well, I'm not really talking, I'm reading.
Ah.
So maybe that's what's going on.
Okay. No, not
Oh, how fast did you play it?
Normal speed.
Okay.
It's not a criticism, it's a reflection.
Yeah.
Oh.
Interesting.
I was thinking as well, though, what does this techniques or this research, can you apply it to touchscreens as well? I mean, a lot of talk there about how you use keyboards, but can you...
I'm pretty confident you can apply it to touchscreens. I mean, that's the same thing. Everybody's using the same... Going between letters, there's always this similar time frame each time. And once you add up enough of those, you will have enough data to, understand that there's a unique person behind it.
And I guess as well that the touchscreens now, they're pressure sensitive.
Exactly.
So you can tell how much you're pressing, and I guess when you've got swiping actions to write words, then I guess you swipe maybe in a particular pattern.
And some people use space, some people just use small characters. I mean, there are so many things. And some people use abbreviations on phones nowadays that are very unique to them. So maybe there's even more unique language for each person today as well.
That's actually an interesting aspect of this. I mean, you were talking there more specifically about the inputting of characters and monitoring, logging that, and how that reveals your identity. But what we're seeing as well is the use of a body of text to identify you as an individual.
Yep.
I mean, I remember the example of J.K. Rowling, author of the Harry Potter books. She was outed as the author of a book called The Cuckoo's Calling over 10 years ago now. And that was done by analysing various texts and realizing that this book had a match to her style.
Right.
Back then in 2013, they actually called this computer software rather than AI, which
rather than the popular term today for computer software.
Yes. Well, yeah. So we have our own. I mean, not only the way we type is a fingerprint, then the way in which we string words together is a fingerprint.
Yep. And that's pretty scary. And there's so much data from our typing going on nowadays. And sometimes, I mean, I'm reading things today along the lines of we can install software on people's computers that can tell us if they are feeling unwell or if they are having mental health issues based on how they are typing and how their typing changes over time. And it's interesting to me that people are finding actually, trying, at least with research, trying to find, can this be helpful? At the same time, of course, as it's extremely dangerous in that people are often not aware that this is going on.
Oh, so you're saying that your typing style, so not just the word you're using, but the typing style and what you output can be used as a diagnosis tool.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
It is really interesting.
Because that then puts into that same thing again where we've got a tool for good, which at the same time, I mean, I know that the US government, for example, has got a program that they're pursuing to analyze texts to identify individuals. So you can't be anonymous via text anymore. That if you've written something, they can then work out who you are.
Exactly, yeah. So as soon as you start logging all this information, you are never anonymous anymore. And it just takes so little to understand exactly and pinpoint the exact identity of a person, which is just insane.
So what we're actually saying is that any of us with anything published online can't be anonymous.
Pretty much, yeah. And I mean, that's my conclusion. And I have to say, based on an interesting aspect I've also been reading about typing, is that a lot of software is now being developed, also called this dual letter acronym. But I could record you typing on your keyboard right now, and it could work out what you're typing just by the sound of it.
Oh, right.
I want that touchscreen again. You won't be able to hear me if I've got my touchscreen.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Touchscreen becomes a security feature. But you said about the legality aspect. It's illegal in a lot of countries.
Yeah.
Is it also? Is that in all contexts? I mean, like, how many employers can have laptops with keyloggers in and things? Is that something which?
I mean, it is surveillance. So, if the person isn't aware of it's happening, then it can possibly be legal. At least in most Western democracies. Yeah,
well, in Europe, I imagine it's possibly not. I mean, I actually don't know. I've not researched this, but spontaneously, I'm going to say, well, it's probably okay in America, and it's probably not in Europe.
It could be. It also depends on how it's like written. It could be that, well, we are going to use it for this purpose, but we will never save the exact information on what you are typing. We're just logging how much you are working, I guess.
Yeah. But that's logging what's been typed without you realizing. That's another example I can think of when I've worked with chat. The chat operators that you do in customer service, that sometimes there, when you're writing things in the input box before you send it, the chat operator can actually see it because it's getting transmitted character for character beforehand.
You mentioned that to me, and that feels absolutely insane. I mean, how is that legal? Because that is also surveillance.
And the way it was explained to me was that it was done to improve response metrics. So you actually can, you can prepare your reply as an operator to send pretty much straight away as you receive the question. So it looks like you're doing a really quick, good job. But
essentially, I can type "you idiot," but delete it. But I just want to type it because I'm frustrated with the operator. I type that, delete it, and they've seen it that I typed.
They've seen it. So and that's what I've seen in research. That they're actually coloured. They're actually affected by that, by seeing that response. There's a bit of trauma there that they've seen it, and they have to then work on getting rid of that from their own response, because they haven't seen it, but they've seen it. And then you've got the deception side of things for the actual customer, that they don't understand that they're being monitored in that sense. They think that everything's safe until they press enter.
Of course. And that's, I think I mentioned that as well. And I mean, this is something that Facebook did, that what you typed into the Facebook status window was actually saved, even if you never sent it.
Yeah. Oh, we see with autosave. You see this in a lot of tools. I mean,
of course,
chat tools and email and the rest of it. Everything's autosaved now. So you do have things saved even when they're draft in your context. I mean, you see this as not ready, but it's there somewhere. So that means it's open for potentially for other uses that you may or may not be aware of.
Yeah. So I suppose what I'm trying to do when I write these things is that I'm trying to help people become more aware so that they can take better care of how they approach digital services. But it is essentially impossible these days. And I think people need to be aware of that as well. But that obviously also triggered things that you thought about. Well, if you type it over there, people are going to see it. So if you use a keyboard, the information will end up somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to use pen and paper more. I mean, it feels like when I say that, it's like, oh, you're tech. You hate tech. You don't want us to innovate and evolve. Well, I do. I just don't want all my data saved all the time. And imagine all the servers that's needed for this, and all the data traffic that's going on all the time as well. It's just there are insane amounts of data and storage and electricity being used just because I typed a word on a keyboard.
Yeah, when you put it like that, just because I typed a word on a keyboard, it's tip of the iceberg sort of stuff.
Exactly, because when you visit a lot of newspapers online and you realize how many trackers are there, actually logging what you were typing and how you were interacting with the site, constant traffic to many, many different sites being saved all the time.
So, well, I think though, if today's Link Show has been to give you an insight and a bit of a look at the kind of stuff me and Per are writing about elsewhere outside of the podcast. And please go ahead and subscribe to The Talking Tin which is the name of my podcast with James Roy Lawson, and Carefully with Per Axboom.
Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, which is probably why you listen to this one. We will be back in January for another batch of Season 2 episodes. Until then, you can listen to our other podcasts.
Remember to keep moving.
See you on the other side.
So, James, did you hear about the hungry clock?
No, I didn't hear about the hungry clock.
Yeah, it went back 4 seconds.